Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Erasing the Stigma. Today, I'm here with Miss Diane Devenyi, who is the Chief Learning Officer of the Learningforce, which was founded in 2003 for high performance learners. So, would you be able to give listeners a snapshot of who you are and your company, the Learningforce?
Sure. Thank you so much. I actually began my life as a tax lawyer. I have three children who are now adults. And when they were in school in the 90s, I was spending a lot of time volunteering in their classrooms. And I saw that there were many issues around literacy, and I saw a lot of suffering. And then when my eldest was 10 years old, extremely bright, but he struggled with spelling. He struggled with messy writing or dysgraphia. And I was looking for solutions. And I realized by 1999 that it was my job to actually do something about education and literacy. And so I started training in all the leading edge programs that were available around literacy, and started doing pilot projects in Toronto schools where I live. And by 2003, decided to incorporate the Learningforce. And in 2005, I went back to school to get a master's degree in education. And so it's just been this journey of being really committed to helping everyone understand their access to genius is available, and everyone has their own unique genius. And so here we are.
Thank you so much. And I love that everyone has their own unique genius. And I give extreme kudos to you because people like you are so incredible when you see an issue and you take action to make significant change. So, what you are doing through the Learning Force is just wonderful. And so, like you were touching on before, dysgraphia is unfortunately a language-based learning difference that is not widely discussed. So, would you be able to just provide a brief explanation of what dysgraphia is for all of those who do not know?
Well, in its most basic form, dysgraphia is the inability to write legibly. But I go a little deeper with that, and I say that it's the inability to print or write letters in their conventional order, which means that there is a particular way that letters are designed to be printed and written. And if you do not have the ability to do that for whatever reason, then that is dysgraphia. That's as simple as it gets. Some people will say it's based on a neurological disorder. That has not been my experience. To me, as you mentioned, it's a difference. It's just a way that different people respond to the fact that generally our education around the letters of the alphabet, the symbols that we use, is incomplete for most people. And in fact, I would say it's incomplete for everybody. Everybody can have a greater certainty than they do about the letters. And when you do not have that certainty, for some, it becomes a real issue.
So, if parents see signs that their child has dysgraphia, how would you suggest that parents take action to help their child get a greater certainty of the letters on the alphabet?
Well, some very rarely there is a teacher that understands, but most likely the parents are going to have to do something on their own. And what I do is I have a very simple assessment that they can do. And it begins with printing out the uppercase or capital letters from A to Z or Z, depending on where in the world you are, and on lined paper, and then printing out the lowercase or small letters, again, from A to Z or Z. Draw a picture and have them write something about their picture. That very simple assessment gives a lot of information. I do those assessments all the time. But most importantly, they will see and may be shocked that their child cannot produce the entire alphabet. And in fact, some that I've assessed, and this includes adults, can't complete the entire alphabet. I've had people that couldn't go past the letter I, the letter L, the letter S. They have no idea what to write after that, even though their own name contains some of those letters that they don't
Wow.
even know how to, how to include in the alphabet. And for some, it's missing letters. For some, it's mixing up the different capital and small letters. There are a lot of issues with respect to order, as I talked about, a lack of order. And so I've coined a phrase that I call letter disorder. It's not a disorder in the person. It's what they produce when they have an incomplete education in the letters. It's so much simpler than people think, and it's not really pointing to a flaw in the person. And there are some very rare cases where a person will have a number of motor-based issues, and coordination and things like that, that can be improved, that also shows up with respect to dysgraphia. But that is much less common in my experience than just that there is simply, there are just simply some gaps.
That is extremely interesting that someone might have a letter in their name that they can't produce in the alphabet. And so I bet that for a child who has dysgraphia, but they're unaware that they have dysgraphia, that this would be pretty detrimental to their self-esteem. So with not even just kids, actually, I take that back. I would say kids and adults. So with the people that you have worked with, how have you seen dysgraphia affecting their self-esteem?
Well, I mean, shame, frustration, um, and a misunderstanding and underappreciation of just the impact of the gaps. But it leads to behavioral issues. It can lead to physical ailments in people as well. Again, we are each unique, and what's happening in our life, we express it in our unique way. And so the expression of the effects of dysgraphia and the frustration, I know for my own son, he struggled to copy his spelling words from the blackboard into his notebook week after week after week. And he was just told, just focus more, try harder. And eventually you're going to give up if that's the only solution that's offered to you. And you can become very frustrated and totally shut down. So, but I will also say, with respect to dysgraphia, there was a study done of 2,000 American adults in 2009, in 2019, where 43% reported that they can't read their own writing.
Wow.
And 75% of the people on the survey said that they have had issues with coworkers not being able to decipher a coworker's writing. But another shocking statistic was 23% reported that they are terrified if they are ever asked to, in a meeting, write up on a board or share, when people share brainstorming ideas and things like that, they're terrified to have to write in front of other people. So there's a lot of emotion connected to it, and especially because it's misunderstood and often dismissed as not a big deal, or it's just something that people just kind of are teased about, or eventually are taught to laugh at themselves. It's really if you don't belong in whatever way you feel you don't belong, it's going to affect you. We all want to belong. We all want to know that we matter, and belonging is a matter of safety. If you are not part of the group, historically, you didn't survive. And that's wired into us still, why we want to belong. So there's a lot of emotion connected to this.
Yes, there is significant emotion connected to it. And what makes me so upset is like for the example that you gave of your son being mislabeled as someone who was unfocused, or if you are struggling with your handwriting and you might be mislabeled as someone who's not taking the time to try to write out your letters neatly. And these mislabels are so detrimental to someone's self-esteem because they carry this label for them their entire lives. And it's
Mhm.
very upsetting that dysgraphia is not widely talked about because if it were widely talked about, people could possibly see that, oh, it's not the fact that I'm unfocused, it's the fact that I have dysgraphia and I need to find solutions that can help me succeed in whether it is in a business or at school. So I'm just so happy that you're doing the work that you're doing because so many people can benefit from it. And on that note, what are some solutions that you would recommend if someone thinks that they have dyslexia or dysgraphia? I'm sorry.
Well, I will tell you what I don't recommend. I don't recommend occupational therapy as the first approach. Very few people will benefit from occupational therapy, as I mentioned earlier, if they do have specific fine motor skill issues. But it's really about looking at the root cause. What is the root cause? And as I've said, I trace it to an incomplete education about the letters. And so the solution is to complete that education. And it's not by looking at it again or writing out the letters over and over again. Those didn't work the first time. They're not going to work again. And what I have created is a system for relearning the alphabet by making the letters out of clay. It's a very tactile experience, and you develop ownership of the letters. So it's and I do it in a collaborative way so that nobody is ever doing something alone, that they're always feeling that they're part of a team and that the whole team is invested in the entire team's success. And so they make sure that everyone is able to do the specific actions and activities so that everyone comes out with absolute certainty about every letter. And when you have that certainty, then and we literally get to the point where you can close your eyes and you've integrated the letters so well that you are going to be able to see them or feel them, depending on how how you are wired, and be able to say them forward and backward with ease. Like have absolute certainty, and then your brain now has a standard of how to send a message to your hand so that you will be able to write.
I think that is an amazing approach that you take, especially because it might just be the artist in me, but I think that's very fun, like doing letters out of clay. And it's not like you were saying, trying to do the alphabet, writing it over and over again and making it like a drill that is obviously very frustrating if you're not able to do that. So I think that is a wonderful approach. And so if listeners look at the Learningforce, your company, they see that you offer an online program called the Wild Alphabet Adventures. So, would you be able to explain to listeners about what that online program is and what they can take away from being a part of that program?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, a major difference in what I offer relative to most other programs is that our Wild Alphabet Adventures are for the entire family. And I do that because it gives the parents an opportunity to create a real space of learning and security for their child. But it also, as I said, in my experience, everybody benefits from relearning the alphabet in this way, in a tactile way, really integrating the symbols, because this is the highest form of learning. When your body is participating in your learning. As I said, I started off as a tax lawyer. I thought everything happened here. And when I trained and learned how to make letters out of clay and then created the system that I've created from that, I still recall the feeling of in every cell of my body of what every letter was like. And it just changed my whole life. I decided to take on dance, which I'd always been afraid to do. I suddenly opened up channels of creativity that I had closed down because I was living in my head. And I write spoken word poetry now. And so everybody has something to gain by being a part of this. And also, children are used to parents, sending them somewhere to have someone else do the work with them. I think there's an incredible bonding opportunity when parents and children are working together, or grandparents and grandchildren are working together. I know another woman who wants to work with her nieces. And so there's something that happens, and especially in the last 2.5 years that we've had up till now with respect to lockdowns and closures of so many things in different parts of the world, we all need to feel our deep bonds back in our family. And parents also are very empowered when they are a part of the solution rather than handing it over to experts. Parents know their children. They know what their child really needs, but we've been trained to believe that other people know what's better for our children. In this case, when a parent works with their child and they do the process together, it changes everything. And as I said, we begin with what I call, it's a kind of like a learning warm-up, just like an athlete or a musician would warm up. And I call them brain pleasers. Your brain is really happy when the body joins the party. And so you do different ways of understanding energy level and changing your energy level to match the needs of the situation. You learn how to be extra focused and balanced. You do balancing activities because that is the most powerful for training your brain how to be focused. And for so many of us who are struggling with attention and focus issues, that also helps that issue. Then we move on to actually making the letters out of clay, playing all kinds of games to bring it into place. Because when you are in joy, you are going to learn and you're going to remember, and things will, that's what we were born to do. We were born to learn, and bringing joy into the process is our birthright. And so that's what we do. And then we have a success journal that follows up with positive psychology, where you record your brand new alphabet in a journal that's recording gratitude and kindness and exercise and focus, things that have been shown to increase our positivity. So, and in doing all of this, any thoughts that people have, these myths that are out there about dysgraphia and other literacy-based issues, they just fall away. Because when you see with your own hand that something has changed, I don't have to tell you you can do it. I'm showing you can do it. And when you have that experience, it's undeniable. The one other thing I want people to realize is it's important to be able to produce with your hand accurate letters, because people think it's no big deal. Or I see a lot of people being recommended to just go to technology, get your child to just use computers, and that will help them. The fact is, if the root cause is confusion about the letters, you're still interacting with those letters digitally. You're still seeing them on your screen, whether it's on your computer, your tablet, or your phone, or in books and magazines for those who still use those. And so you're still interacting with those letters. If you have confusion behind the scenes around that's unresolved, then it's going to affect you. And you never know when you're going to hit the wall. What I've seen is, based on the way curriculum gets consistently more complex as the child gets older, by age 10 or 11, a lot of children will hit the wall, which was my son's experience. He just said, I'm just not going to do this anymore. And so it does matter. And this is, as I say, one of the most underappreciated and misunderstood issues in literacy And for some, it leads to dysgraphia. For others, it may not. It may lead to reading or trouble turning your thoughts into written language or spoken language. There are all kinds of ways that it can show up. But making sure everyone has a solid foundation in their alphabet is critical for lifelong learning success.
And I 100% agree. It is extremely important because, like you were saying before, sometimes these issues are just ignored. And then later in life, someone who's dealing with dysgraphia is, like you said, hits a wall and they might not understand why they hit that wall. And then going back to the self-esteem aspect of it, they might think that it's because of their own inability to focus or to work hard enough when there is a true underlying issue. And I really do love the fact that you incorporate the entire family because oftentimes when a child is receiving treatment for a learning difference, in this case, dysgraphia, it is, like you said, the child is handed off to the program that they're working in. And what's amazing about a ton of these programs is that it creates a safe space for the child, but that safe space is limited to being physically in that program. But what you are doing, integrating the entire family in it, that's amazing because now the child has two safe space. The child feels safe when they're in the program, but the child has a safe space when they're with their family because they know that their family understands their struggles and the family understands the work that they're doing because the family is also experiencing that work. So I think that that is amazing. And I am a huge proponent for tactile learning, doing tactile learning and art integration. I think that it is wonderful to incorporate learning through art integration or other tactile ways, especially in a classroom, because like you said, it benefits everyone and it creates an inclusive learning environment where everyone feels like they're a part of that group. So what you are doing is beyond amazing. And I really, really hope that my listeners can take your advice to learn more about dysgraphia. And if they are experiencing dysgraphia or they know someone who has the signs of dysgraphia, I would really recommend for my listeners to look more into the Learningforce because it is just such an amazing approach that you are taking. So the final question that I have for you is what is one thing that you think listeners can do to erase the stigma behind language-based learning disabilities?
Well, I'd say, first of all, by listening to this, you've become informed about a new way to approach it. And as you know, has nothing to do with intelligence. It's not that they're uncoordinated or have a fine motor skill issue. It's not that they're not trying or they're lazy. You like understanding that first, and starting to use the language. It's simply due to an incomplete education with respect to the letters of the alphabet. If you understand it in that way and you share that with people, then the more people who understand that, and then the more people who start to realize there is a solution as well, because there are many who believe there isn't, without tedious exercises that often don't work. And so knowing the truth, spreading the truth, and realizing that each one of us comes with an opportunity to be more connected to the greatness that we are. And often, as we know in the traditional hero's journey, you come up against something that feels overwhelming and you move through it, you vanquish it, and you move on with greater skills and abilities. And if you look at it that way, that just happens to be an opportunity for you to find out the truth of your power.
I think that is a wonderful way to erase the stigma and to just understand that this is a journey and it can be a very fun journey with the therapies that you are employing with the tactile learning. And you know, when you come out of this journey, you come out stronger, but you could come out more bonded with your family members. So definitely, I agree with what you're saying. And there's definitely positivity that comes out of learning more about the struggles that you face with dysgraphia. So I want to thank you again so much for joining me to inform me and my listeners about what you are doing and about dysgraphia. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much. And thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you.